Okay, so you want to really get your head around something like taking amazing photos of places, right? But without, spending ages lost in textbooks.
Exactly. You want the core ideas, the things that make a difference fast.
Well, think of this as your shortcut. We're diving deep into how to capture really compelling images of the world.
Yeah, we've been digging into this really insightful book from 2017. And it's not just about, like, pretty Instagram
Well,
shots.
no, definitely not.
It's about understanding how to actually convey meaning, emotion through photos of spaces.
Right. And the book gives us this great framework that what, when, and how, what places grab you, when's the best time to shoot them, and crucially, how do you actually compose and expose the shot? That's what we're going to explore.
Okay, let's start with the how. Composition. It's fundamental. The book frames it as, well, finding order, simplifying the scene.
Composition. Okay.
Oh,
It's more than just the rule of thirds, isn't it? The book says something really direct. Like, really, it all comes down to two things, your left foot and your right foot.
huh, yeah. It really hammers home that where you physically stand is, well, everything. You're not just passively recording.
You might have to hike for miles or
Yeah,
maybe just shift your weight.
exactly. Sometimes it's a tiny adjustment, sometimes a whole journey to find that perfect spot. It's active.
So, how does that play out? The book talks about finding the lines. It uses that famous Julia Schulman photo of the Skull House.
Oh, yeah, the one overlooking LA at night. Iconic.
And Schulman's position is key, right?
Mm-hmm.
The book explains how your eye follows the lines from the sun lounger
Uh-huh. To the house itself, then the women inside.
and then out across the city lights. It's like a visual pathway.
It really is. These leading lines, whether they're obvious roads or subtle hints, they structure the image. They guide you.
Yeah.
Without them, your eye just kind of wanders, doesn't it?
Yeah, no focus. So lines give direction.
Yeah,
And these lines, they're basically just paths our eyes naturally follow in the picture.
pretty much. And that leads right into the idea of the frame. The book brings up a Bert Dan Cart photo from Hong Kong. Seemingly quite plain.
Right? Just some pipes, a bit of wall, some green patch. Doesn't sound thrilling.
But the book talks about the exactitude of his framing, how that precision turns this, quote, humdrum scene into a humdinger. Makes you really think about the edges of your photo.
Absolutely. What if the lines weren't straight? Or that green wasn't perfectly placed?
A sloppy frame just kills it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Even with a great subject. But a really confident, precise frame, it tells the viewer exactly what you saw, what mattered to you, no hesitation.
Okay, then there's frame within a frame, using something in the foreground to frame the main subject.
Yes,
Yeah.
like Tim Hetherington's photo from that abandoned hospital in Liberia, really powerful.
Wow, yeah. You see the destroyed room inside, but through the window,
Mm.
this incredibly lush green landscape. The contrast is stark.
And it's not just about isolating the subject visually. The book points out the dialogue. It creates the destroyed interior, maybe the past, against the thriving nature outside. Resilience versus ruin.
It's a simple trick, compositionally, but the story it tells is huge. That window frame forces you to see both things together.
Definitely. Okay, next concept. Shooting at 45 degrees. They use a Mitch Epstein photo, that big BP refinery with the U.S. flag.
I think I know the one. Lots of pipes, structures, very industrial, feels solid.
And that angle, shooting it at 45 degrees, the book says it emphasizes the three-dimensional form. You see two sides. It gives it weight, presence, makes it feel permanent, powerful.
Makes sense for buildings and things with clear angles. Does it work for everything? Like curvier shapes?
Good question. While angular things definitely benefit, showing two sides creates that order. But even organic shapes, usually have an angle that reveals their form best. It's about finding what communicates the shape in your idea most effectively.
Gotcha. Okay, horizon lines. Seems basic, but the book says placement is conceptual too. Like that Mitch Browner storm photo, where the sky is just vast.
That one's intense. Pure power of nature. And the low horizon is deliberate, right? It's
Yeah.
all about emphasis.
So lots of sky makes you feel small, maybe. Makes you think about forces bigger than us.
Yeah, exactly. While a dominant foreground might make you think more about, I don't know, social stuff, land use, politics
Mhm.
maybe, lowering the horizon in Dobrauner's shot makes those clouds feel absolutely terrifyingly huge.
Okay, let's go higher. Elevated point of view. Massimo Vitali's beach scenes, shot from a tower.
Yeah, looking down on those packed Mediterranean beaches,
Yeah.
it gives you this sense of order. You see the whole pattern.
From the ground, you just see the people right next to you. But from up there.
You see the bigger picture. Like the book mentions, sometimes a crowded beach right next to a power station. You wouldn't necessarily see that connection from ground level.
Yeah.
It creates distance, Emotionally, too, like an establishing shot.
And often no foreground, right? It makes it feel like you're floating above it all.
Yeah, detached.
Yeah.
Which contrasts perfectly with the next idea, street level, like Joel Meyerowitz in New York.
Ah, yes. Right in the thick of it. People, signs, buildings everywhere.
You feel like you're there. And Meyerowitz, the book says, wasn't just isolating one person. He was showing how people and the city, the place, are inseparable. They're part of the same energy.
When you're right in the scene, the viewer feels part of it too. The movement, the chaos. It's all part of the urban environment.
Exactly. People are as much a part of it as the buildings.
Ah,
Okay, then distance from subject. Stephen Tulenti's photo of a prison at night. Just a small, lit building in vast darkness.
right. And that smallness says so much, doesn't it? Isolation, the context of the empty space around it.
Totally. The book makes the point. The subject doesn't need to fill the frame. Giving it space can add context, amplify the feeling.
Okay, zooming out conceptually now with wide-angle lenses, Lee Friedlander's photos from inside his car.
Yes, such a distinct viewpoint. The car interior is always there, framing the changing view outside.
And the wide-angle lens does what? Stretches the foreground?
Yet it exaggerates things close up, makes them look bigger, pushes the background further away. It's not just practical for shooting on the move, it creates a whole unique perspective.
And the opposite. Telephoto lenses. The examples are rainy Tokyo Street, right? Mizutani. Lots of colorful umbrellas.
And it looks almost flat, abstract. The telephoto lens compresses the space.
So those usual rules about leading lines, creating depth, they matter less.
Kind of.
Hmm.
The book suggests you then focus more on balancing colors, shapes, tones on the flat surface of the photo. Different rules apply.
Interesting. And finally, composition wraps up with format, portrait versus landscape, and aspect ratio, like square or wide, just reminding us that shape matters for how we look at it.
Absolutely. Landscape gives you breadth, right? Sideways relationships.
While portrait emphasizes height, up and down.
Yeah. Often draws you to a central subject vertically, changes the whole feeling of space, intimacy versus vastness, just by turning the camera.
Okay, moving on from where you stand to how you capture the light. Exposure. The book stresses this isn't just technical filling.
No, it's a creative tool. It shapes how we perceive the place, our sense of time, of space, in the image. Exposure tells a story.
So, slow shutter speed. Simon Norfolk's photo in Kabul, the ruined building, but with blurred livestock moving.
Yeah, it captures time passing, doesn't it? The static ruin, the moving animals, past and present, maybe future, all in one frame. Slow shutter gives that motion blur.
So the camera's eye stays open longer, blurring movement. Shows life moving against something static, like that destroyed building.
Right? And you might need filters, like neutral density filters, to do that in bright light, to allow for that longer exposure.
And that blur can become the point, right? Blur and abstraction. Charles March moving the camera during long exposures in woods looks almost like a painting.
Exactly. It moves away from trying to show what it looks like, literally, towards something more gestural, evocative. He's almost dancing with the camera in response to the scene.
Then the opposite, fast shutter speed, freezing motion, like Floto, plus Warner's photos of throwing colored liquid in the desert.
Those are amazing. These shapes frozen midair. Fast shutter stops time, basically.
It reveals details you just wouldn't see normally, right? That split second. Arrests your attention.
Totally. Okay, then deep depth of field. Everything sharp, front to back. The example is an Olaf Otto Becker landscape. Ice sheet, tiny figures far away, but all sharp.
Yeah, like your eye can focus on everything at once. How's that done? Small aperture?
Small aperture, exactly. High F number, great for landscapes, showing scale, intricate details. Everything's in focus so you see the relationship between near and far elements.
Contrasting with shallow depth of field, only a small slice is sharp, the rest is blurry. John Gossage's photo of a bottle by a pond.
Your eye goes right to that bottle. The blur isolates it.
So deep depth of field gives context, scale. Shallow depth of field feels more intimate, focusing on one detail.
That's the idea. Using a wide aperture, low F number, creates that intimacy. It makes you consider the significance of that one small thing.
Okay, manipulating light through exposure. Overexposing. Rinko Kawachi's bright, almost blown-out photo of a road in the woods.
Yeah, it feels almost spiritual, maybe. The book says overexposing can create a sense of revelation. It draws attention to the light itself. Even if you lose detail and the highlights burn them out. It's more about feeling the light than perfect technical exposure.
And the flip side, underexposing. Kikuji Kawada's dark, moody images, lots of black.
Underexposing creates a different feeling entirely, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Mystery, unease, maybe something hidden. Details disappear into shadow. The book suggests it can represent uncertainty, or maybe reflect the photographer's own feelings about the past or future.
Right. And the book then quickly clarifies the basics. Shutter speed controls motion, aperture controls depth of field, and ISO. That's camera sensitivity.
Yeah, ISO is like turning up the volume on light sensitivity, lets you shoot in darker conditions.
But you want to keep it low if possible to avoid noise or graininess.
Generally, yes. Keep it as low as the light allows for the cleanest image. Think of it like adjusting your eyes to a dark room useful, but things get grainy.
Okay, which leads perfectly into the next big topic, light itself. The book uses Richard Misrach's photos of the Golden Gate Bridge, taken from his porch over 3 years.
Yeah, just to show how dramatically light changes everything. Even the most familiar view, it's constantly shifting.
Light isn't static, it shapes the mood, the look, everything. So, first type, the golden hour. Harry Corey writes pastoral scenes.
Ah, yes. That warm, soft light just after sunrise or before sunset. Long, gentle shadows that define texture. Photographers chase this light.
Early mornings, late evenings, worth the effort, yeah. Mist can enhance it, too.
Oh, definitely. Adds atmosphere, depth. Then there's soft light or flat light. Philippe Chancel's desert road under an overcast sky.
No harsh shadows there.
Exactly. Clouds act like a giant diffuser. Softens the light, reduces contrast, gives a quieter, maybe more contemplative feel. The book suggests in Chancel's photo, it hints at the desert slowly reclaiming the road. Time passing quietly.
Contrasting with hard light or clarity. Robert Adams's photo of prefab houses in bright desert sun.
Super sharp, strong shadows, lots of texture. Hard light really defines angles and shapes. Adams even composed with the shadows, treated them like objects. Okay. And low sun, late afternoon. Harry Gruillard's street photo with really long shadows. Yeah, when the sun's low, shadows stretch dramatically, makes buildings look more angular, more defined. It's a fleeting, magical time. You have to be quick.
Then twilight, that time after sunset but before full dark. Alex South's motel photo.
Such an evocative time. Can feel calm, but also a bit
Don't minute.
ominous. The mix of fading natural light and emerging artificial light is really unique. Cool blues mixing with warm window glows.
Speaking of artificial light, ambient light. Versailles night shot Big Albert's gang lit by headlights.
Yeah, at night the city becomes a stage, right? Street lights, headlights, they create hard directional light, deep shadows, bright highlights. Very dramatic.
And Root Luxembourg uses nightlight differently. More imaginative, colorful.
Her work finds the city's secret stories, the book says. Artificial light can create surprising colors, moods you just don't see in daylight. It can be unpredictable, but often really rich visually.
And finally, just plain night shots. Todd Hido's photos of houses at night. Anonymous, maybe a bit eerie.
Darkness hides details, doesn't it? Your imagination fills in the gaps. Hito plays on that, creates unanswered questions, invites you to project stories onto these ordinary homes.
Right, so the light section wraps up with some tech bits. Controlling color, maybe embracing weird color casts instead of always correcting them.
Yeah, be open to what different lights do. And shooting raw is crucial for flexibility later, adjusting color and light in editing.
Considering black and white based on the light and contrast in the scene itself.
And finally, essential filters. UV for protection, polarizers to cut glare and boost skies, ND filters to allow longer exposures, tools to control the light hitting the center.
Okay, now this is interesting. Manipulation. The book starts with that story about photographing the giant General Sherman tree.
Yeah. Someone asking the photographer to take another shot just to remove a stranger from the background.
It perfectly makes the point. Every photograph is, in some way, a manipulation of the truth. Even just deciding when to click or how to frame it, that person wanted a specific, idealized version of their alone-in-nature moment.
We all do it, to some extent. Sometimes subtly, sometimes obviously.
Hmm.
But the book argues even obvious manipulation can reveal a deeper truth about a place. Let's start with color. Richard Moss, using infrared film in the Congo, those vivid pinks and red,
So striking. Totally transforms the landscape.
and using film originally meant for military surveillance.
Hmm.
In an art context, it challenges how we see landscapes, how we see war photography. There's no single true color. It's about the photographer's choice and why they made it. Saturated versus desaturated colors have hugely different emotional impacts.
Then black and white is manipulation. Dodo Jinming's seascape made from 2 exposures.
By ditching color, you focus on tone, texture, form. The book says Ming even makes water look like fire through tonal manipulation. It completely changes how we perceive the subject.
Artificial lighting again, but as manipulation. Tina Hillier using flash in a South African woods at night.
Bringing your own light completely changes the place. Hillier's flash creates tension, right, between what's brightly lit and what's hidden in darkness. It reveals some things, but makes the surrounding forest feel maybe more mysterious, unknown, like her own feelings about the place.
Using props. Jorma Puranen placing old Sami portraits in the Lapland landscape. The book calls it 1 + 1 = 3.
Exactly. The landscape has meaning, the portraits have meaning, put them together, boom, new, deeper layers. The Sami people metaphorically reclaiming their land, layering past onto present. Really clever.
Okay, cultural reference. Thomas Ruff using a night vision camera in suburban Dusseldorf, that grainy green look.
He's borrowing the look associated with military surveillance
Right.
and applying it to a normal, safe neighborhood. It overlays those heavy connotations onto the everyday. Makes you rethink your relationship with the familiar, brings distant conflicts uncomfortably close.
Then how including people and place manipulates perception? William Henry Jackson's photos of the American West, with figures in the landscape.
Including people totally changes how we relate to the place. Gives scale, sure, but also carries messages. In Jackson's case, the book argues, those figures represented freedom, opportunity, encouraged westward expansion. It wasn't just documentation.
And finally, digital manipulation. Matt Seiber removing the supports for roadside signs.
The book distinguishes between invisible manipulation trying to fool you and visible manipulation like Seiber's. He's openly using Photoshop as an artistic tool, commenting on consumerism, politics, the messages plastered onto our landscape. It's commentary, not deception.
Right. And this section ends with practicalities. Retouching in Photoshop versus Lightroom using non-destructive edits.
And key Lightroom tools. Basic adjustments, HSL for color, tone curve for contrast, the tools for manipulating the image file.
Okay, final big section. The what? Location. Where do you find places to photograph? The book mentions Mike Slack being drawn to a random concrete block near a famous sculpture.
Yeah, it's subjective. It's about finding places that spark your interest, not just the obvious tourist spots. Be brave, look beyond the landmarks.
So first type, sublime places. Think Ansel Adams, grand wilderness.
Photographing these places, the book suggests, is almost like mindfulness. Connecting with something vast, bigger than yourself, requires respect for nature.
Then the opposite, contrived places, Rainer Riedler's fake holidays series in theme parks.
These artificial environments, mimicking nature or other landmarks, they confront us with our desire for simulation, maybe? Do we prefer the fake sometimes?
Iconic places. Martin Parr photographing tourists at the Leaning Tower of Pisa, not just the tower itself.
He shifts the focus, right? Looks at how we interact with famous places, often quite funny, maybe a bit critical. Makes you think about tourism, our connection to history.
Industrial places. John Davies' photos of landscapes heavily changed by industry often look quite stark.
But he finds a negative beauty, the book says. Elegant compositions in exhausted landscapes. A precise, maybe sobering, look at how industry reshapes places.
Pastoral places. The book contrasts Davies with Faye Godwin's view of the English landscape, more harmonious.
Yeah, showing how different photographers see the same country completely differently. Reflects their own perspectives, agendas. No single truth to the landscape.
Reclaimed places. Dylan Marsh's photos of birds' nests built on power lines, poles.
Nature taking back man-made structures. Give them a second life. Shows that cycle nature doesn't seem to care much about our stuff. Just like we sometimes don't care about nature.
Non-places. Steffi Klenz photographing gravel pits. Seemingly boring spots.
Proves you can find beauty anywhere, right? The best spots aren't always signposted. You have to look.
Everyday places. Kathy Ryan photographing her own office, often just with her phone.
Invest in your eyes, not just gear. Find beauty in your daily routine. Even mundane places have photographic potential if you look closely.
Comparable places. Burned and Hella Beecher's Typologies series of photos of similar things, like water towers.
Their systematic approach, shooting similar things the same way, makes you compare the subtle differences in form. You stop seeing them as just functional objects and notice their design.
Political places. Joel Stonefeld's photo of the location related to the Rodney King beating looks ordinary but holds heavy significance.
Shows how subtlety can be powerful. The quiet image, combined with a knowledge of the place, prompts deep thought about social issues, progress, or lack thereof.
Imaginary places. Joan Foncuberta making landscapes out of a tongue.
Even completely made-up places draw on reality, the book points out. Makes you wonder about the biases perhaps built into the software used to create them. Whose ideal landscape is it?
Personal places. Ying Yang photographing her childhood home, Australia's Gold Coast.
Going back to places with history. unlocks unique views, emotions.
Mhm.
Aang sees the darker side beneath the shiny surface, viewing it as both an insider and an outsider now.
And lastly, your places. Charles Duke leaving a family photo on the moon.
Ultimately, it's about your perspective, showing the world through your eyes, finding places that mean something to you, and sharing that connection. That's what matters.
And then there's a quick note on legal matters. Property rights, model releases if people are recognizable, commercial use versus editorial. Important stuff to keep in mind.
Definitely. And it wraps up location with troubleshooting, choosing gear, handling tricky situations like controlling depth of field or preventing the sky from blowing out.
Yeah, like for bright skies, maybe use a graduated ND filter, darker on top, clear on the bottom.
Exactly. Helps balance the exposure between the bright sky and the darker land. Practical tips.
So bringing it all together, great place photography is about that mix, isn't it? The what places that resonate with you, the when, the right light, and the how using composition, exposure, maybe manipulation to tell your story.
And it's deeply personal at its core.
Absolutely. So the challenge for you listening is get out there, see the places around you with this fresh perspective, notice the lines, the light, the moments.
And think about the stories you want your photos to tell.
Because, as the book ends so perfectly, however far you travel, there's one thing you can never leave behind yourself.
Your unique view, your connection, that's the key. That's what makes your photos yours.